Part 111. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1132. In the main hall of the virtual heaven, Binghua became familiar with the use of the void engine. As for the main defense and repair of the secondary biological engine, she was already very familiar with it. The blazing energy glow condenses like a solid in Binghua's hands. After the conceptual modification and material redefinition, it has ultra-high temperature and also possesses some properties of a solid. If a way can be found to solidify it permanently, then this energy blade can be used as a cutting-edge weapon that can threaten the divine body. What a magnificent creation! This is a substance that will never exist in nature. I am afraid that only the void can give it such powerful properties. Carl looked at Binghua's creation and admired it sincerely, but neither Hexi nor Binghua paid much attention to his words. Actually, I think that rather than using them for combat, the void engine and sub-biological engine are more suitable for military use in the creation of new substances. Hexi clicked her tongue and marveled. Although she had always known about the concept of void and the powerful definition of matter, she had never felt it so intuitively. Binghua also agrees with Hexi's words. Now she can easily create some new substances with special properties. If she hadn't been required to keep the algorithm active to maintain the definition of matter, then this technology would be enough to change everything in existence. Then Sister Hexi, you have something to do next. How about developing a technology that can solidify it permanently? Binghua smiled at Hexi and said in a pleased tone. Okay, I'll let you jump in line first. He 11 was unable to resist Binghua's enthusiastic attack, and reluctantly waved his hand and agreed. If you two don't mind, I would also like to participate in this study. You can't let me go anyway, so why not let me use my remaining value? Carl interrupted at this time, saying that he was afraid that if he didn't speak again, Binghua would seal him in that device again. Carl could accept death and failure, but he could not accept that he was abandoned by the times. In just a few years, the technology of the known universe has developed to a point that he feels is incredible. If 100 or 1,000 years pass, will all the knowledge he possesses be completely behind the times? Although he can no longer lead the times, at least Carl hopes that he can witness the coming new era. Binghua thought about Carl's request for a moment and agreed, but did not directly cancel the punishment for Carl. Carl will enjoy the same treatment as Liangbing and will be permanently imprisoned in Angel Prison in the future. But what is better than Liangbing is that although Carl has lost his freedom, he can conduct some simple research. This is a reward for Carl's willingness to assist Hexi in upgrading his sacred body. It can also be regarded as a way for Binghua people to do their best to contribute to the construction of a just world. After all, Carl has proven his talent in scientific research. After completing the upgrade, Binghua is also preparing to leave Merlot Heaven. After all, the news that Gu Kesha recently sent back is that the enemies on the other side of the gap of the void are restless. More importantly, Destroyer 064 has arrived in the known universe, and Binghua is preparing to go to the Styx galaxy with Destroyer 064. As the weapons sealed in the void gap were on their way to the Styx, the new Kamigawa army on the other side of the void gap finally completed their combat deployment. They first drove a large number of void creatures into the known universe near the gap of the void to serve as cannon fodder that consumed the firepower of the Angel defense line, and tested the important firepower points of the defense line. After several days of fierce fighting, the commanding angel of the Angel defense line breathed a sigh of relief after discovering that the density of the void creatures was gradually decreasing. The assassin hidden among the void creatures suddenly attacked. Traveling through the void and escaping into the shadows, the void assassins who were once surrounded by angels took advantage of the defense line to deal with void creatures and sneaked in again. Immediately, there was a sneak attack on the angel warriors. This time the void assassins' goal was to destroy the border guarding angel base, the defense settings and energy supply facilities of the orbital defense platform. They sneak into the interior of these defense bases, spread void energy, and infect and destroy the energy circuits inside the base. Soon, the defensive forts of the Angel Guard base went silent, and the space-time deflection shield gradually collapsed. Looking at this scene, Kesha frowned for the first time since arriving here. The elite team presses forward, activates the wormhole array, and conducts precise delivery to eliminate these rats hiding in the darkness. After Kesha's order was issued, the Skyblade battleship equipped with the wormhole array and the Angel Warrior team that had been prepared quickly rushed into the wormhole. The Void Assassin who was assassinating the scientific research angel inside the Border Guard Angel base was caught off guard by the angel who suddenly protruded from the space wormhole. For a moment, the blazing energy glow echoed with the void blade that cut through the space. The energy aftermath of the collision was like a storm that completely destroyed the interior of the base. Although this curbed the damage caused by the Void Assassins, to a certain extent the Void Assassins succeeded in achieving their goals and destroyed part of the defense line. The misfiring and collapse of several Border Guard Angel bases became the trigger. Shin Kamigawa seized this point and prioritized attacking this part of the defense line in an attempt to widen the gap. But Shin Kamigawa's thinking was too simplistic. Just as Shin Kamigawa's mothership group shuttled through the void and arrived near the defense line, they launched raiders and landed their own regiments at the Border Guard Angel base, hoping to get the two sides to mix together, when weakening the firepower advantage of the Angel's defense line. The Skyblade, which had been serving as a fixed-point fort behind the defense line, moved. Under the space jump, the advantages of being a celestial battleship were fully displayed. The Skyblade that suddenly jumped out of the void, the huge hull and the spears of light all over it struck the turret and the celestial level time and space deflection shield, making them like a mobile base fortress. The terrifying firepower fell on the new Kamigawa mothership before it had time to expand the void energy field. The bursting hot energy and the recoiling void energy annihilated each other and collided with each other. The terrifying energy impact immediately swept through everything around it, and the approaching skimmer was like a lonely boat in the sea, being carried around and flying around. Seeing that his plan to use the enemy's base to prevent the Angels from carrying out all-out firebombing due to the presence of friendly forces failed, Shin Kamigawa simply turned to a strong attack, hoping to capture the most troublesome Skyblade battleship. The surrounding skimmers changed their attack targets and launched a fierce attack on the nearest Skyblade. Under the continuous attacks, the strength of the space-time deflection shield suddenly began to drop sharply, and soon entered the warning value. However, at the same time, the guard force around the Kamigawa mothership was greatly weakened. Other Skyblades took this opportunity to also start onslaught. Soon, Shin Kamigawa's mothership armor and void protective power were exhausted, and the ship's hull gradually shattered into part of the numerous spacecraft wreckage on this battlefield. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1133. After several Kamigawa motherships were destroyed, a battered Skyblade space-time deflection shield finally reached the critical point and turned into energy fragments and fell apart. In an instant, the surrounding skimmers rushed to the Skyblade hull, tilting their fire towards the spear of light turret that was still firing on the hull, destroying the Skyblade's counter-attack force. But soon the Angel Legion carried in the Skyblade broke away from the ship and rushed into the universe, using the flaming sword in its hand that symbolized the majesty of the angels to sweep away these approaching enemy aircraft. Due to the fall of a Skyblade, New Kamigawa and the Angel civilization finally entered the field of close combat in which both sides were extremely confident. From the destroyed New Kamigawa mothership, streaks of purple light shot out, transforming into Void Kamigawa warriors holding void blades and special sniper rifles on the Skyblade hull. The military system inherited from the once glorious Kamigawa civilization has allowed the new Kamigawa army to maintain the special unit of Kamigawa snipers, even if they have embraced the void. This special sniper power did not allow the Angel to exert a decisive advantage in hand-to-hand combat. Because the new Kamigawa Void Warrior's unique pure energy body has no weaknesses, it can only be completely destroyed by using more powerful energy. This caused a great loss to the angel warriors who didn't understand them at first. A large number of angel warriors faced this kind of enemy for the first time. The opponents they thought they had killed actually had the power to fight back. Many angels died because of their carelessness. At the same time, the snipers of the new Kamigawa civilization are also constantly sniping at the angels who are raiding and attacking in the universe. Although the power of the special void energy bombs is not fatal, it can cause serious trauma to the angel warriors. Kesha, who was in command, discovered this, but there was no good way to do it, because time did not allow the angel civilization to come up with effective defense methods and targeted weapons. The only thing Kesha could do was to let the Mellow Guards, who were originally a special response force, attack to relieve the pressure on the gap in the defense line. As for some god-level angels with relatively strong combat power, they are not in a hurry to be exposed, because their angels are defensive and their opponents are offensive, so they already have the initiative to choose a breakthrough point. If a sacred pair of wings like Ran, which can run rampant on the battlefield, is exposed, it will not only encounter targeted sniping from the opponent, but will also be restrained by the enemy's use of troops. When the opponent changes the direction of attack, the angel side will not have strategic level battle angels to fill the gap in high-level combat capabilities. Of course, the most important point is that the current pressure on the gap in the defense line has not reached the point where strategic angels need to be sent out immediately for rescue. Of course, the special characteristics of the wormhole array can also be used to quickly transfer and mobilize high-level combat units, but Kesha was the first to lose her composure when blocking the new Kamigawa. She wanted to engage in a god-killing operation to kill the opponent's top leaders. If the uniqueness of the wormhole array's ability to deploy troops at will on the battlefield is exposed in advance, the opponent will easily be wary of it. As for whether the space will know that Angel has such technology, the possibility is too small, because Angel has not revealed that he has this ability. The previous uses were on a very small scale, either inside one's own base. The most important thing is that the wormhole array has always been a unique technology of the demon civilization. It has always been firmly controlled by the demon and has never been used. Outflow, even Styx does not have the technical reserves in this area. As the battle continues, both sides invest more and more troops in the gaps in the defense line. Some powerful entities that can easily set off a wave of void energy have begun to appear on the battlefield. Correspondingly, there are also god-level angels on the angel side to fight. Compared with ordinary high-level angels and void warriors, the battle scenes of the fighting gods and the new Kamigawa generals are much grander. Within the scope of influence, neither angel warriors nor void warriors can get close. This is the suppression of energy levels. Queen Kesha, Angel Minjaya, Angel Aya have fallen. The angel responsible for monitoring the battlefield situation reported urgently. The next moment, 2 projection images appeared, including 2 god-level angels. One had a void blade penetrated through her armor from behind and came out. The blooming void energy was spreading throughout her body along her wounds. The other one was wrapped in the rich void energy incarnated by the new Kamigawa general, and his super genes were eroded and he died. Soon the cause of their death, the battle data of their opponents, and the methods used were compiled into data and sent to other angels on the battlefield so that they could take precautions. Near the gap of the void, Space is observing the situation on the battlefield, sorting out the information, and reporting it to the new Kamigawa intelligence officer on the side. After analysis, he summarizes and reports to the king of New Kamigawa. It is so powerful that it can withstand the fierce attack of my army. It is indeed the most powerful civilization in the known universe according to Space. But this alone is not enough. Tell Space that I don't want to wait any longer. Let his people go up first, and I will arrive later. After saying this, the new king of Kamigawa stood up from his throne, and as he stood up, the 10 people in the hall were covered in void metal armor like sculptures, and a bright purple glow appeared in their eyes. These are the direct bodyguards who once followed him in the battle to wipe out the Void Kamigawa warlords. Unlike ordinary Kamigawa generals, they specialize in fighting and do not command the army. After thousands of years of energy conversion and technological enhancements provided by space, these personal guards are all extremely powerful, and ordinary Kamigawa generals cannot match them. Although the development of new Kamigawa has long departed from the conventional cyclical and gradual route of technological development, and turned into a route of ascension of void energy, directly changing from a biological body to an energy body, they have never forgotten to arm themselves with technology. The new king of Kamigawa put on armor that could greatly increase the range of his energy control, condensed the vast void energy into several substantial spheres and hung them behind him as reserves, and stepped into the main creature he had never been to before. Cosmic World. Before that, the gods of Kamigawa under the command of space also appeared on the battlefield. After killing 2 god-level angels in a sneak attack, they were stopped by Yan, Len, Ziluo and other powerful god-level angels. In space, a wave of void energy began to expand the scope of the void gap to open up a larger channel. Because as a scholar, he can only maintain his strength in places with abundant void energy, so the new king of Kamigawa left his escape to space, his 4 personal guards, and part of the corps for defense. The new king of Kamigawa appeared on the battlefield with a high profile. As soon as he appeared, he used the materialized void energy sphere behind him to smash the time and space deflection shield of a skyblade, attracting the attention of the angels. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1134. With such a high profile and such confidence, it seems that this should be the commander of the Void civilization. Kesha deduced that this was not an unfounded guess, but an inference based on the characteristics and components of the new Kamigawa army. The Void civilization should be the same as the Angel civilization, with the highest wisdom and the most powerful ruling the entire civilization, otherwise it would be impossible to explain the other's social system. Because when the power exceeds the regular defenders of the social order, the so-called weak to resist the strong simply cannot be established. Only the strong can resist the strong. Only in this way can a stable order system be formed. Although Keisha doesn't know much about New Kamigawa, the details of the battle between the two sides are enough to prove that the class systems of Shin Kamigawa and Marrow Heavenly Court reach the same goal by different paths. The moment the new king of Kamigawa appeared on the battlefield, Kesha also took action. She had been hidden in the snow, anxiously waiting for the order. Ran, Crane, Ming and other angels finally got permission to attack. The wormhole array is activated, a temporary wormhole is generated, and the coordinate points are connected. As the space near the new king of Kamigawa sank, a wormhole was created in the blink of an eye. The next moment, several figures wrapped in bright energy rushed out. The king of the new Kamigawa reacted quickly. A void sphere behind him instantly flew out, spread, and turned into liquid-like void energy. It burned like a flame and covered the charging enemy. Just when the burning liquid void energy was like a big mouth, about to swallow up the figures that rushed out of the wormhole, a blazing glow lit up inside. The next moment, a torrent of golden red energy was like a blazing fire, piercing through the liquid void energy and sinking into the distant starry sky. Angel Alan's heavenly blade judgment opened a huge gap for her companions, and the other angels would naturally not let her down. Thunder Rush made up for the increasingly weak heavenly blade judgment, further widening the gap. Upon seeing this, the will of the new god of the Kamigawa was imposed on the burning void sea of fire, causing it to close at an accelerated rate. But it was already a step too late. Angel Hakowi rushed out of the gap dragging a silver trail. The power of the broken blade algorithm of the silver épée in his hand was increased to the maximum, and the whole body emitted a red radiant light and rushed to the vicinity of the new king of Kamigawa. The time around him seemed to slow down dozens of times at this moment. Hisui poured all his strength into this sword, striving to severely injure the opponent with one blow. The new king of Kamigawa did not look panicked. He raised his hand, and one of the void balls behind him quickly turned into a sword, which he grabbed and slashed down hard. Faced with the enemy's behavior of exchanging injuries for injuries, Hisui did not show any signs of deterioration. He held the weapon without any deformation in his movements and cut into the chest and abdomen of the new king of Kamigawa. At the same time, the void energy blade in the hand of the new king of Kamigawa also cut heavily into the shoulder armor of Hichui near her neck. If Hichui hadn't tilted his head, it might have been her head that was cut. After being injured, Hichui instinctively distanced himself from the new king of Kamigawa, but the void energy at the wound was not so easy to eliminate. "How about it, Tsuryui?" Ailan approached Hisui and asked with concern. Hisui said with a somewhat painful expression, "It's okay, I won't die for the time being, but you should be careful." Kakozui reminded, because she could not accurately tell what was unusual about the new king of Kamigawa. The only thing that can be known is that the other party does not pay attention to the injury, because the wounds caused by Hisui have healed as before in just a few seconds, and no traces can be seen. The new king of Kamigawa did not pursue Tsuryui's escape because he had already experienced the power of the angel's attack with his own body. The result is that the problem is not big. No matter how many times this kind of attack is repeated, it will not cause real damage to him, so the new king of Kamigawa plans to use overwhelming power to let the angel experience what it means to be in complete despair. One of the 7 void spheres left in total began to deform, stretching and covering the king of Kamigawa, forming a translucent energy armor covering his whole body. The void sword held by the new king of Kamigawa was also lengthened, and was finally fixed into a giant spear that was slightly taller than the void god, with a flat prism-shaped front blade. "Come and challenge me. Angels, today I will show you my power as the king of Kamigawa." The extremely pure Kamigawa language came out from the mouth of the king of Kamigawa. After being interfered by the energy armor, this speech band containing such information was filled with a heavy pressure. Kamigawa language is the mainstream language in the known universe, so the angels can naturally hear this message. It was not until this moment that the angels understood who the opponent they were facing was. But these are meaningless to the angels and Shin Kamigawa, who have now become mortal enemies. They only want to kill these enemies who come from the void. Come together, please cooperate. Seeing how powerful the king of Kamigawa was, Ran, Ailan, Ming, and Hisui did not choose to entrust him, but nodded in agreement with Ran's proposal. God-killing battle number 1, prepare. Ran raised his head, and the surging lightning began to gather quickly and was thrown out. Ailan immediately responded to Ran's attack. This time she did not choose to destroy the wide-ranging Sky Blade Judgment, but chose the easier-to-control Flame Bombardment. The terrifying energy was concentrated into a width similar to the blade of the sword, hidden in the tumbling torrent of lightning, and attacked forward. In response to the menacing lightning, the void spear in the king of Kamigawa's hand pulled and pulled, splitting the incoming lightning torrent into 2 as if it had opened a layer of water waves. But then a flash of red hidden in the lightning came into his sight, like a spear piercing the energy armor on his body. After a moment of stalemate, the red spear-like energy suddenly exploded, and the rolling energy fire cloud swallowed up a large area around it. But the next second the rolling energy fire cloud was swept away by a purple energy glow, revealing the almost unscathed king of Kamigawa. Unlike the space of the god of the void and the newly promoted void body, the king of Kamigawa does not understand so many technologies and strange algorithms. The only thing he is good at is energy solidification, compression, and shaping. Just these 3 simple techniques allow him to surpass the heroes in the entire new Kamigawa. Even space is just a fragile thing in front of him. Scholar. The king of Kamigawa, who broke through the rolling energy flames around him, suddenly caught a figure approaching at a very fast speed. The void spear in his hand was swept out and collided with a heavy sword surging with dazzling light. In an instant, dazzling flashes of light continued to radiate around, and the tide of dark energy and void energy continued to entangle with each other. At the moment when the two were entangled with each other, Kakozui unexpectedly came from the side of the king of Kamigawa, and thrust forward with the sword that activated the high-power blade destruction algorithm in his hand. But it is a pity that Tsurui's weapon was blocked by the energy-enhanced gauntlet of the arm raised by the new king of Kamigawa at the last moment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1135. Faced with the attacks of two angels comparable to the level of divine wings at the same time, even the king of Kamigawa had to deal with them carefully. Although it is difficult for the opponent's attack to cause real damage to you, it does not mean that the opponent will not do something to you while you are recovering. The void spear that blocked Angel Ming suddenly sent out a concussive void impact, knocking Ming back a little. Taking advantage of the moment of leisure, the void spear in the king of Kamigawa's hand deformed again, and the tail of the spear extended backwards and thrust out from the back. Hizui was about to break through the energy gauntlet of the king of Kamigawa and cause real damage to him, but in the face of the incoming void spear, she did not dare to hold on and quickly drew her sword and flew back. You should be what the space calls the holy winged level battle angels, but in my opinion, you are just mediocre. I really don't understand why that guy is so afraid of you. The king of New Kamigawa proudly said that he was not bragging. Just now he had indeed easily resolved the god-killing battle launched by the Holy Wings level battle angel. When the new king of Kamigawa was blocked by the angels with divine wings, the sudden attack of the gods of Kamigawa caused serious damage to the angels' defense line. No matter how backward the technology mastered by the gods of Kamigawa is, they themselves are the foundation of fighting gods, and they cannot be that weak. In order to fight against them, the Xiangbing Company and some god-level angels attacked. The gods of Kamigawa have lost several important companions, and the only ones still alive today are Spear of Kamigawa, Fist of Kamigawa, and two technicians, Lan Bing and Kasha. In order to make up for their weak combat power, the king of Kamigawa specially transferred the king's personal guards who followed him to the side of the gods of Kamigawa, responsible for destroying the angels' defenses. Among the gods of Kamigawa, the Fist of Kamigawa Lin Yuan was stopped by Ziluo, who was also good at close combat and came over to exchange unarmed combat skills. The power released between the frequently colliding fists was enough to easily penetrate armor and shatter the spacecraft. Piexu, a god who is good at firepower, sniper, and bombing, encountered a tough problem this time, which was the god-killing tactical team formed by the Xiangbing Company based on the battlefield conditions. They are composed of the Kamigawa sniper Kylin, the German stargun Xin Zhao who is good at speedy raids, Yaoan who can use his ability to pull earth and rocks to make mobile platforms and bunkers, and the most critical time and space Rose. With the cooperation of the four, Piexu was unable to spare the time to deploy his weapons and recharge them, allowing him to carry out precise sniper fire attacks on these four. Although the combination of space-time Rose and the German Star Spear can maximize Xin Zhao's mobility advantage, Piexu is a god who has experienced physical warfare. Regarding being besieged, he has his own way of fighting. Although he is constantly being chased by Xin Zhao and others, his life is not in danger for the time being. As for Ge Xiaolun and Lu Chuang, who were the most powerful in the Xiangbing Company, they each stopped a personal guard of the King of Divine River. After the training of the battles, Ge Xiaolun is no longer what he used to be. The recessive angel part of his genes was fully activated with the help of Merlot Heaven. He has his own wings and the ability to fly across galaxies alone. At this moment, he was playing a chase and escape game with a bodyguard of the King of Kamigawa who was covered in unknown metal armor. The weapon engine of the black giant sword in his hand quickly analyzed the energy in the body of the bodyguard in front of him to provide the necessary information for the anti-void algorithm. Data support. Lu Chuang, who belonged to the same Xiangbing Company as Ge Xiaolun, was different. He was not as meandering as Ge Xiaolun. He directly hugged a guard of the king of Kamigawa and crashed into a new Kamigawa mothership with him. Then Lu Chuang had a fierce close exchange with the bodyguard of the king of Kamigawa, the axe that cut through the thorns and the king's bodyguard who traversed the void battlefield. What both of them are good at is fighting with force to break the law, using head-to-head confrontation and force to break force, which fully explains what the most cruel violence is. In order to deal with the king's personal guards, Lu Chuang, who was in crisis, increased his energy conversion efficiency to the limit he could achieve so far. The imitation black cutter in his hand fell, which was powerful enough to split the stars. Under his feet, the new god the river carriers all whined. An anti-void god-making project was once established in space, although the original intention was to integrate the resources and technologies of the Super Seminary and launch the next stage of exploration of super gene technology. However, in order to combat the then unknown fear of the void in the future, the three major anti-void god-making projects have placed special expectations on them. The sword that cuts through fear, the anti-void technology of Kamigawa power, is a tentative exploration of countering the void. The axe that cuts through thorns and thorns, Noxing War God, is the ultimate warrior to face the fear of the void head-on. The light that lights up the darkness, the light of the sun, is to provide strong logistical support and sufficient energy support to both on the battlefield with the void. Of course, the above are the final names and characteristics of the anti-void god-making project. At the beginning, they had another name, namely the power of Kamigawa as the main general, and the blade of Kamigawa and the light of Kamigawa that assisted him. But in the end, due to the disintegration of the Shenhe Pan-Civilization Alliance, and the separation of the Super Seminary and the Angel Civilization, these three major god-making projects had to be outsourced to other civilizations, and each was added with the characteristics of their respective civilizations. If the Kamigawa Pan-Civilization Alliance had not disintegrated, these three major anti-void god-making projects would have already begun to fulfill their missions, using their own super genes as war gods as templates to develop next-level batches suitable for large-scale use. Super genetic model. In the end, these beautiful expectations were shattered with the disintegration of the Kamigawa Pan-Civilization Alliance. The civilizations that carried the three major anti-void projects also turned against each other for some reasons, and eventually both went to destruction. The remaining results of the anti-void god-making project eventually fell into the hands of the Angel Civilization, but the Merlot Heavenly Court, which has become a powerful pole in the known universe, has long looked down on the results of the anti-void god-making civilization, because there have been better ones. But better is not the most suitable after all, so when fighting against the new Kamigawa civilization, a civilization from the void, the Galaxy Power and Nyoxing God of War, which are anti-void god-making projects, performed so prominently. Of course, the battle gods of the Angel Civilization did not perform poorly, but most of them were unable to gain any obvious advantage in battles with the generals of the new Kamigawa Civilization. Except for the king's personal guards who were held back by the might of two Xiangbing companies, the remaining king's personal guards met their death, which was the former king of angels, Holy Kesha, who stood at the apex of all angels in this star field. Although she is no longer the king of angels, her arsenal of weapons and authority in the treasure house of sacred knowledge have not been recycled by the current king of angels, Binghua. With the opening of the space wormhole, the cross throne slowly flew out from it under the faint glow. The figure on it seemed to have some special qualities, and its strong presence made it impossible for the king's personal guards to ignore it. Even if no information was obtained in advance, the king's personal guards could confirm with their own intuition that Holy Kesha was not the king of the angelic civilization, but should also be an extremely important existence. The king's personal guards, who were originally slaughtering the surrounding angels, immediately made a decision to kill Holy Kesha as their highest priority goal. Facing the king's personal guards who rushed over quickly, Kesha had experience fighting against Karl and Hua, and knew that ordinary defenses built with dark energy could not stop them at all. The void energy that can be modified in concept and has the characteristics of infection is the nemesis of the conventional energy defense system, unless it completely overwhelms the opponent in terms of magnitude. These King's personal guards, whose whole bodies are covered by special metal armor, with only a pair of purple energy eyes showing, have energy in their bodies that has exceeded the energy reserves of ordinary third-generation gods according to the calculations of the sacred knowledge treasury. Since such existences are difficult to resist with defense, it is possible to trap them. After all, according to Kesha's previous observations, the attack style of these metal lumps is extremely simple and crude. The reason why it was difficult for the angel warriors to capture them was partly because the energy intensity in their bodies was extremely high, and also because of the metal armor covering their bodies. It seems that because they are produced in the void universe, they are like solid void energy with strong energy conductivity and physical defense capabilities. Angels' weapons and equipment are generally both physical and energy killing, but against the armor of the King's guards, energy attacks are resisted and eroded by void energy, and physical weapons are blocked by solid armor, so they are basically unable to cause effective damage. But these problems are only minor problems for Kesha, because the other party has already entered her sacred realm. The secondary biological engine is turned on, target the King's bodyguard, and build a secondary biological engine energy trap to restrict the opponent's movement. Although Kesha's sacred domain is only a few kilometers long, within these few kilometers she can use the computing power support of the sacred knowledge treasure house to carry out wormholes and algorithm drives anywhere. The algorithm of the secondary biological engine is no exception. During this time, Kesha was no longer involved in the affairs of the King of Angels, and focused most of her attention on the optimization of the sacred language algorithm, and its combat power was even better than before. At this moment, Kesha showed off her most proud skill, driving the algorithm from a long distance. This was something that even Hexi and Binghua couldn't do. The four King's guards who rushed into Kesha's sacred realm fell into the energy trap constructed by the sub-biological engine and were imprisoned in place. The next moment the past scene reappeared, silver metal wings emerged from the void, bringing a burst of silver light across the body of a King's personal guard. The silver feather, which is enough to easily cut through the body of 3 generations of gods, directly breaks through the armor of the King's personal guard, exposing the body built of void energy inside. Kesha's series of attacks severely damaged 2 of the King's guards. After breaking through the secondary biological energy trap, the remaining 2 King's guards wanted to continue to get closer to kill Kesha, this dangerous enemy. But when they were still more than 10 meters away from Kesha, they could no longer move forward. Confinement algorithms were activated one after another, turning into uninterrupted defenses to block their steps. In the end, they were stabbed into hedgehogs by sharp silver blades, and the rioting void energy in their bodies was calmed and eliminated by Kesha using the sub-biological engine. After all, the warriors of the new Kamigawa civilization still lacked the combat skills to deal with the complex and changeable nature of the known universe. They rely on their own energy strength to run rampant. Once they are thoroughly studied, they will be easily killed by targeted operations. Kesha happens to be best at dealing with opponents at the same level as herself, or at a lower level, which is commonly known as a torturer, and her efficiency is even higher than that of Binghua. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1136. The energy reactions of the personal guards disappeared one after another, and finally the King of Kamigawa felt something was wrong. He seemed to have fallen into the angel's tactical trap. After several collisions, Ming and Hizui's divine bodies as the main attackers were seriously injured, but what was even more serious was the void energy that invaded their divine bodies. When they are in good condition, these alien energies can use their majestic dark energy reserves to suppress and eliminate them, but now their bodies are injured and they need energy to repair their bodies. This leads to a reduction in the dark energy that suppresses the wound, and the void energy takes the opportunity to increase the erosion area and destroy more super genes. If they don't conduct self-examination as soon as possible and expel the void energy remaining in the wound, Ming and Heikewi's status will soon decline. The series of consequences this will bring are likely to destroy the god-killing campaign against the King of Kamigawa, and the opponent will take advantage of the gap in combat power to defeat them one by one. Just as Heikewi and Ran thought, the King of Kamigawa was now considering whether to violently break through their god-killing battle, even at the cost of injury. After observing and feeling the general situation of his fleet and corps, the King of Kamigawa found that the casualties were much higher than he had imagined. What's more important is the loss of high-level combat power. These are the mainstays of the new Kamigawa that take thousands of years to grow. If they fight against the angels, they will not have enough combat power to resist the Void Titan in the Void Universe in the future. It is impossible that if something happens there, he, the new King of Kamigawa, will have to take the blame. If this is the case, then he will be doing a terrible job as a king. Therefore, the King of Kamigawa planned to launch a wave to see if he could take away these battle angels who were crowned as sacred wings by space. Just do what you think of. The King of Kamigawa's first priority targets are naturally the injured Heikewi and Angel Ming, and they are the part responsible for flank harassment and sneak attacks in the god-killing operation. Ran, Alan has tried to delay the King of Kamigawa as much as possible, but facing the King of Kamigawa with both defense and attack power, all the tactics they came up with have no effect under the current conditions. Seeing that the King of Kamigawa was planning to abandon them and go to the main battlefield to use his crushing combat power to massacre the angel warriors, how could they allow him to do so? The god-killing battle started again, and Hizui and Ming had to drag their damaged bodies and once again assume the role of flanking raids. Only in this way could they get close to the opponent and destroy the opponent's energy armor. But this time the King of Kamigawa did not fight the enemy according to the previous method. Although he likes head-on battles, it does not mean that he will not come up with tricks. This time, the results achieved by Heikewi and Ming were similar to those before. Neither of them could cause real damage to the King of Kamigawa. The only goal achieved was to slow down its speed again. But during the retreat, the King of Kamigawa finally activated his backup plan. The ball of void that had been floating quietly behind the King of Kamigawa, ignored by the angels, unexpectedly followed Heikewi and Ming at some point. Left together. When Hizui and Ming realized that something was wrong, countless bulges appeared on the surface of the void ball. In the next moment, they turned into needle-like spears of light and shot out in all directions. Hizui and Ming quickly waved their weapons to block, but the attack transformed by the void ball was too dense and extremely powerful. In the blink of an eye, several void light spears appeared on Hizui's body. The damage to his divine body was even worse. Ming on the other side was no exception. He was also hit by several void light spears, but the damage to his divine body was far less severe than that of Hizui. The reason why this happened was mainly because he chased and beat the King of Kamigawa hard before, dealt with it hastily, and then joined the god-killing battle. Upon seeing this, Ailan and Ran rushed over to rescue them, but the King of Kamigawa would not just watch from the sidelines. Ran, who rushed over, was blocked by him. The Thunder Sword and the Void Light Gun collided, and the scattered lightning and void energy annihilated each other. However, after only a moment, the void energy released by the Void Gun overwhelmed the lightning. Upon seeing this, the King of Kamigawa withdrew his spear and smashed it hard, sending it flying backwards. Alan fell behind because he was farther away, which gave the King of Kamigawa the opportunity to defeat them one by one. Seeing Ran being knocked away, Ailan had already realized that she and Ran had been rash, but the situation had reached this point and there was no room for her to back down. The flame bombing algorithm was activated, and the blazing energy clung to the weapon in Ailan's hand, blooming with a dazzling glow. A boring trick. This is what the King of Kamigawa said about this. The void light gun in his hand met Ailan's weapon without hesitation. As a ring of energy shockwaves spread, Ailan also left a trail in his wake, and was carried away by the incoming void energy. After removing the obstacles that hindered him, the king of Kamigawa turned around and landed on Hichui, who was not far away clenching his silver teeth. He raised his hand and threw the void light gun in his hand without hesitation. Seeing this, a look of regret appeared on Hizui's face. He could only try his best to turn his body and keep the light gun that was getting closer and closer in his side away from his chest and abdomen. But it is a pity that the king of Kamigawa has certain control over the void energy that he has condensed, compressed, and solidified. In the end, the light gun penetrated Hewi's chest without any hindrance. The huge void energy in the light gun began to spread rapidly along the penetrated wound, eroding and destroying the super gene in Hewi's body. At this moment, Hizui was not thinking about killing enemies, nor was he thinking about regrets, but about his sister's face. My sister would be very sad if she died like this, right? This is really embarrassing. Hizui's memories came to an abrupt end, and her consciousness fell into darkness. Then she felt as if she was rising continuously. After an unknown amount of time, there was a picture around Heikawi again. It was a lush energy tree emitting a golden fire-like glow in the eternal darkness. Countless dots of light surround this spectacular energy tree, floating through its energy branches, and the picture is extremely beautiful. But soon Hichui discovered that he was also one of the endless light spots surrounding the energy tree. Only then did Hichui realize that he should have died. And this is the place that Binghua once said was opened up in the treasure house of sacred knowledge specifically to store the dark information data of the fallen angels. At the same time, in the Styx star territory, near the gap of the void, watching Hizui, whose body was eroded by the void energy and disintegrated into countless energy particles, the king of divine river showed a smile, because after wasting so long, he finally had something. Again. But Ran, Alan, and Ming, who watched Hizui fall and disappear, didn't think so. The feeling of suffocation came to their minds again after 20,000 years. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1137. Binghua, how long do you have until you reach the gap of the void? Inside a metal planet that had just arrived in the Styx star territory, Binghua sat on a mechanical throne, with Kesha's figure projected in front of her. It won't be long before the destroyer and I have arrived at the river Styx. There is still more than an hour before the next space jump. After hearing Binghua's answer, Kesha nodded slightly and said, the situation here in the void gap is not optimistic. After coming out of the void gap, New Kamigawa's army launched a fierce attack on the defense line we established. Although we have temporarily blocked them, too many angels will fall if this continues. Even if we now establish a dark information recovery system that can preserve the dark information of fallen angels, their reincarnation will consume a huge amount of resources in the future. The reason why Kesha said this is because the reincarnation of an angel is not just a matter of cloning a body, as some civilizations think. The reincarnation system built by Binghua and Kesha completely restored the physical data of the angel warrior before his death. This was equivalent to recreating a super warrior, but it saves the time of training and cultivation. Sister Kesha, this is the price that must be paid to seal the gap in the void. Space wants to return Kamigawa to the known universe. But today's known universe has long since lost their place. For the sake of the order of today's universe, we must stop them in the gap of the void. As long as the destroyer and I get there and seal the gap in the void, then we only need to annihilate this lone army of Kamigawa outside the void universe, and they will not even think about running wild in the known universe. Binghua said confidently, and Kesha was also infected by Binghua's confidence. It seems that I'm holding back. Anyway, I'm no longer the king of angels. It's up to you to decide what I need to do in the future. Kesha smiled, but her expression soon turned serious again. Now that you are almost here, I can rest assured. Next I have to deal with a very troublesome guy. Wish me a good start, Binghua. Then maybe when you come to the gap of the void, you will only need to carry out the finishing work. Kesha smiled and cut off the communication with Binghua, and her eyes fell on the nearest projection, which showed the battle between the king of Kamigawa and Ran. When she saw Hichui being killed, the habitual smile on Kesha's face completely disappeared. Because the situation was so critical that she had to take the lead, otherwise the consequences would be disastrous if the king of Kamigawa, a combat supermodel, was allowed to go to the main battlefield. Kesha checked the inventory of silver wings and silver blades in her arsenal, then raised her head, leaned back on the throne and crossed her legs. With a thought, a wormhole slowly formed in front of her. On the other side, the king of Kamigawa, after dealing with Crane, stretched a void ball into a void light gun, and then set his sights on Ming, who was also injured. Now, let alone stopping the king of Kamigawa, Elan and Ran had difficulty protecting the injured Hades from his attack. After several collisions, Ran and Elan were under less pressure from Heikui and Ming's flanking attacks, and it was difficult to prepare an energy attack powerful enough to contain the king of Kamigawa. The king of Kamigawa relied on his strong energy armor and ignored the cowardly attacks of the two. He held down Ran and Elan, the two former sacred left-wingers. The battle situation was dangerous and the winner could be decided at any time. But the turning point soon came, as several silver sharp edges cut through the space and cut directly towards the king of Kamigawa, who was fighting with Elan and Ran. Even the king of Kamigawa could not react immediately to this sudden attack. After all, he did not have a celestial computer that could monitor the surrounding situation at any time. The king of Kamigawa's energy armor, which had not suffered any obvious damage since the beginning of the war, had deep cuts for the first time under the cuts of these silver rays. However, the several silver flying blades that caused such damage also completely exhausted the power that was attached to them, floating powerlessly in the universe, and disappeared in the wormhole that appeared near them after a moment. Ran and Elan took the opportunity to take the injured Ming out of the attack range of the king of Kamigawa, and watched the situation here. I don't know when Holy Kesha came to this space. Sitting high on the cross throne, in the void on both sides of her were 6 silver metal wings that were slowly unfolding. Queen Kesha's silver wings are still fully extended. Alan was surprised. As Kesha's confidant, she knew that only when faced with a more dangerous situation, Queen Kesha would take out all the silver wings to defend herself. The reason for all this is that compared to Queen Kesha's powerful algorithm drive and the sacred realm that almost no god can break through, Queen Kesha's hand-to-hand combat level is not that outstanding. Although I don't like actions like sneak attacks, sometimes when circumstances force me, even I have to temporarily give up the principles I have always adhered to. Kesha's words echoed in this space. The King of Looks looked at her carefully and felt some qualities similar to his own in her body. You are the King of Angels, right? After waiting for you for so long, you finally come out. It seems that as a king you still care for your subordinates, but unfortunately, I will kill all the angels here after killing you. The king of Kamigawa pointed the void light gun at Kesha, who was sitting on the throne, and said murderously. The tone is quite loud. In this case, I am sitting here, just try your best to kill me. Kesha's calm words were the best reply to the king of Kamigawa. Without any warning, the king of Kamigawa suddenly raised his void light gun and threw it straight towards Kesha's position. The light gun moved forward all the way, and when it was about 1,000 meters away from Kesha, it finally encountered an obstacle. A barrier made of the energy of the biological engine was erected out of thin air, but it was penetrated by the light gun in an instant. Discovering that the energy barrier could not stop the flying light guns, Kesha changed her method. The wormhole opened and silver blades flew out, colliding with the light guns like a rain curtain. In the end, when the light gun was still more than 100 meters away from Kesha, it was completely cut into tiny pieces of void particles by the silver blade, but the price was that the silver blade used to block the attack was corroded by void energy and was damaged. No matter how many times I've seen it, it's hard for me to have a good impression of the so-called void energy, because the impression it gives me has always been one of destruction and erosion. One of the silver wings around Kesha moved and turned into a fleeting silver light and flew out. The king of Kamigawa did not want to experience whether the silver wings could cut through his energy armor. For the first time since the war began, he began to fly at super high speed to avoid the cut silver rainbow light. At the same time, one of the void spheres behind him quickly turned into a handful. Shoot the slightly smaller light gun in Kesha's direction. Facing the dense light guns flying in the direction, Kesha increased the output of the secondary biological engine, not to block them hard, but to guide them to deflect. A few are obstructed layer by sub-biological energy barriers, weakening their power, and finally blocked by force. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1138. The god of Kamigawa kept circling around the position of Kesha's throne, and shot out void light guns for free, testing Kesha's defense strength in all directions. Kesha sat on the throne with her hands hanging on the armrests. The silver wings behind her kept changing angles as the king of Kamigawa moved, always ensuring that she was aiming at the opponent to attack. Facing the dense light guns flying towards them, Kesha relied on the computing power support of the sacred knowledge treasure house to continuously build energy defense barriers to block them. Exploding masses of energy filled the void around Kesha, and the raging impact spread in all directions, but it failed to move her and the throne beneath her at all. After one round of attacks was exhausted, the king of Kamigawa prepared to use the energy stored in a void sphere to conduct a tentative attack again to find the weak point of Kesha's defense. Kesha knew this very well, but she didn't panic at all, because delaying time would be beneficial to her, because this is a known universe, not a void universe. The energy of the king of Kamigawa is limited, and if you want to replenish it, you must get close to the gap in the void. This is also known to the angels who have previously carried out the god-killing battle. Therefore, when they carried out the god-killing battle against the king of Kamigawa, they guided him to a space far away from the void gap and the main battlefield. In the past, the king of Kamigawa relied on his skill to be bold and did not care about this issue. However, as the number of void balls behind him gradually decreased, the king of Kamigawa began to pay some attention to the issue of energy replenishment. After circling Kesha several times, the king of Kamigawa finally seized an opportunity. The dense spears of light finally broke through the protective net built by Kesha and approached his throne. At the critical moment, the silver wings moved and disintegrated into several huge silver blades that blocked the light gun, resolving the crisis. Although this was only a small mistake, the king of Kamigawa seized this opportunity and immediately turned back, while condensing more light guns and throwing them out. Kesha immediately changed her defense strategy, shifted her computing power and disposable energy to her left, and at the same time connected her weapons arsenal to build a wormhole defense in advance. The king of Kamigawa is hiding in the forest of light guns he fired. As the light guns in front are blocked one by one, the king of Kamigawa is getting closer and closer to Kesha's throne. Boom! The intense energy impact spread, and the void light gun in the king of Kamigawa's hand cut through several energy barriers, pointed directly at Kesha on the throne, and stabbed away. The silver wings cut down like a falling beheading knife. If the king of Kamigawa insists on advancing, the outcome will be cut off in the middle. It was impossible for the king of Kamigawa to bet that Kesha's silver wing blade was not sharp, because the silver blade that flew earlier had already given him the answer, that is, Holy Kesha had the ability to destroy his energy armor with one blow. Seeing the king of Kamigawa retreating, Kesha felt a little relieved. In addition to the attacking silver wings, 3 of the remaining 5 silver wings began to outflank him and cut off his escape route. After the king of Kamigawa dodged the falling silver wings, he already regretted getting close to the opponent's area of expertise so easily. The huge silver wings were like a sharp blade cutting the sky, striking with a sharp edge that could split the space in two. The most important thing was more than one. The void light gun in the King of Kamigawa's hand blocked the oncoming silver wings. The terrifying mass and sharpness made the light gun compressed and solidified by void energy unbearable and began to bend. Upon seeing this, the King of Kamigawa immediately gave up the plan of hard-topping the front and chose to avoid the incoming silver wings. The silver wing that collided with the void light gun was not damaged at all. A piece of its blade was eroded by the void energy. Kesha just frowned slightly when she saw this, and then increased the frequency of the silver wings' attacks. Even the silver wings used to defend herself were looking for opportunities to enter. At the same time, the treasure house of sacred knowledge is also stepping up its efforts to solve the problem of the King of Kamigawa who has entered the sacred realm, so as to prepare for the transfer of the micro-wormhole. After several consecutive collisions, the King of Kamigawa had already decided to retreat. He needed to rethink his tactics against the silver wings, because Holy Kesha's weapon operation ability was very powerful and he could not find a chance to break through. A few minutes later, Kesha looked stunned and finally completed the data analysis of the King of Kamigawa and established his model in the sacred realm. Next, the opponent should be prepared to withstand attacks from all directions. The King of Kamigawa is gradually widening the distance from Kesha. He also discovered that as the distance from Kesha becomes farther and farther, the opponent's accuracy in operating weapons is gradually decreasing. Although the decrease was very slight, the pressure on the King of Kamigawa was not as great as before. But soon the situation took a new turn, and silver sharp blades suddenly appeared in the void that was originally relatively safe. Caught off guard, the King of Kamigawa was stabbed several times, and several cracks appeared on the solid energy armor. This made the King of Kamigawa's expression slightly condensed. After avoiding several silver blades that were fired at him, he hurriedly raised the void light gun in his hand forward. The approaching silver wings were pushed aside, but the King of Kamigawa was still in a hurry to avoid the silver blades shooting from all directions. But as Kesha collected more and more data about the King of Kamigawa, the angle at which the silver blade appeared became more and more tricky, and a loophole finally appeared in the King of Kamigawa's defense. As a silver blade penetrated the energy armor and embedded itself in the body of the King of Kamigawa, his defensive movements also experienced some deformations. Kesha took advantage of the victory and pursued the attack, chasing after this slight flaw, and more silver blades shot out from the void. The only two void balls left behind the King of Kamigawa turned into an energy barrier that enveloped his entire body, resisting attacks from the surrounding silver blades. Seeing that the King of Kamigawa chose to huddle up and defend, Kesha was greatly surprised, but this was better, as it gave herself time to drive complex algorithms. The silver wing took the lead and galloped away, hitting hard on the void shield propped up by the King of Kamigawa. Before it could fly far, it was intercepted by another silver wing. Without giving the King of Kamigawa time to lift his shield and escape, several silver wings cut fiercely from all directions, squeezing him in the middle and unable to move. At this moment, the King of Kamigawa also felt a little regretful, because the 6 huge silver wings kept trying to break through his solidified void energy barrier. If he lifted the void barrier at this moment, the 6 silver wings would be able to divide him into 12 pieces. Although he would not die, some accidents would inevitably happen during his weak period. While the King of Kamigawa was weighing the pros and cons, Kesha had already begun to build a large-scale attack algorithm. This time, large ripples appeared in the void, and what appeared was neither silver wings nor silver blades, but a metal giant statue of an angel warrior nearly 100 meters high. The supergiant flaming sword erected in his hand suddenly burst out with an extremely dazzling light, and he slashed at the location of the King of Kamigawa without hesitation. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1139. The hundreds of meters long sword of fire fell, and the King of Kamigawa was instantly overwhelmed by the surging dark energy flames. After doing all this, Kesha did not take back the angel giant soldiers. After the raging energy dissipated, the energy armor on the King of Kamigawa had been completely shattered, and the void energy barrier propped up had disappeared without a trace. Compared with these things that have disappeared, the wound that almost split it into two halves and is slowly regluing shows how seriously the King of Kamigawa was injured just now. Your armor is not indestructible after all. How are you going to stop my attack next? Kesha was in a good mood, and there was a hint of teasing in her tone of voice. It's just a layer of energy armor made at random. I can make as many as I want. As soon as he finished speaking, King Kamigawa clasped his hands in front of him, and a dazzling purple glow emerged and was stretched into the shape of a void light gun. However, the King of Kamigawa did not solidify another set of void armor this time, because it turned out that it was not of much use in the battle with Kesha, but would instead hinder him. Seeing that the King of Kamigawa gave up his defense, Kesha was surprised but not incomprehensible, because the other party had just used facts to prove that he was not afraid of being hurt. This reminded Kesha of the information about General Kamigawa collected by the Sacred Knowledge Vault. These Kamigawa generals also showed no fear of injury and no fatal weaknesses in their battles with god-level angels. They seemed to be a humanoid energy aggregate. Only by completely consuming their main bodies could they be killed. Thinking of this, Kesha knew that what followed would be a long war of attrition. As the King of Kamigawa regrouped, the silver blades and wings that had been scattered everywhere were also recycled by Kesha and recharged with energy. The giant angel soldier stood behind Kesha like a statue. Behind it were 3 pairs of silver wings that expanded to nearly 100 meters in size. At the same time, circles of light belts formed by the superposition of countless sacred languages contained Kesha and the throne beneath her. The series of strikes just now is the limit of what Kesha can do now. The enemies she faced in the past could not even pass the silver blade strangulation level. How can she develop more tactics? It seems that if you want to fight the new Kamigawa civilization, you must arm the angel warriors with secondary biological engines, otherwise the efficiency will be too low. Thinking of this, Kesha has also planned the next strategy, so let's see if the King of Kamigawa has any new tricks. The King of Kamigawa was ready and moved. Instead of opening the distance between him and Kesha as before, he rushed towards Kesha's throne. As the King of Conquerors who started out as a warrior and wiped out all the Kamigawa warlords in the Void Universe, the King of Kamigawa does not lack the courage to live towards death. Moreover, his behavior was not a risk, but the best way to win, which was to rush in front of Kesha and behead her. Seeing that the King of Kamigawa was so brave, Kesha naturally responded with the greatest firepower, and densely packed silver blades shot out like a curtain of rain. The King of Kamigawa lost his armor, and his speed was even faster than before. Like a purple stream of light, he shuttled through the incoming silver blades. Poof! Even if the speed is fast, unless it is too fast for Kesha to react, accurate calculations can always calculate the movement trajectory of the King of Kamigawa. After dodging several rounds of silver blades, the King of Kamigawa was struck for the first time. Several silver blades penetrated his chest and abdomen, leaving a row of holes. But the King of Kamigawa was not affected at all, and his movements did not change, and he continued to approach Kesha's position. Seeing this, Kesha also saw something fishy. While raising her hand to maintain the shooting of the silver blade, a flaming sword appeared from the void, suspended on Kesha's side, and began to calculate the flame bombing. The King of Kamigawa, who was walking through Kesha's attack, suddenly felt a flash of red near Kesha, and the next moment there was a blazing ray in the incoming silver blade. Of course, the King of Kamigawa was not willing to bear this kind of attack, because it would consume a lot of energy, so he chose to resist the piercing of the silver blade and avoid this attack. This behavior of the King of Kamigawa confirmed Kesha's guess, but it made Kesha a little difficult to deal with. She was proficient in the sacred language, but she had not learned Hyuka's multiple flame bombing synchronization algorithm. And there are almost no flaming swords equipped with floating algorithms in her arsenal. Because she has a silver blade as a weapon, she doesn't have anything with similar functions in reserve. After all, she is not a weapon collector like Hiawa. This has led to Kesha finding the weakness of the King of Kamigawa, but lacking the corresponding weapons. In this case, temporary algorithm development can only be carried out. While Kesha maintained her suppression of the King of Kamigawa and hindered his progress, she began to use the computing power of the sacred knowledge treasury to make certain modifications and optimizations to the flame bombing algorithm. This process is not complicated, because the flame bombing algorithm was originally developed by Kesha. Although it has been optimized and upgraded by Binghua more than once, the framework is still there after all. Therefore, it only took Kesha a few minutes to complete the alternative optimization of the flame bombing algorithm. By importing the weapon engine inside the silver blade, the flame bombing was released. At the beginning of the first experiment, the surfaces of dozens of silver blades suddenly turned red, and blazing high-temperature energy began to cling to their surfaces. However, this energy soon began to dissipate, and the silver blades carrying them were also covered with cracks. If Kaisha hadn't stopped in time after discovering that the silver blade couldn't withstand the flame bombing algorithm, the silver blade would have exploded horribly. Kesha began to reduce the output of the flame bombardment. Finally, after testing, it was found that the silver blade could not withstand the high energy output. Kesha had no choice but to make do with it. The King of Kamigawa discovered that when he and Kesha's throne were 100 meters apart, the silver blade's shot changed. Their surfaces were burning with fire-like dark energy. Every time they penetrated his body, they would chip away at his own body. Part of the energy. When the King of Kamigawa came within 100 meters of Kesha's throne, the silver wings that had been on standby moved, and the 6 silver wings behind the giant soldiers shot out, threatening to repel the King of Kamigawa. When it was discovered that there were no defensive weapons near Kesha except for the sculpture-like angel soldiers, the King of Kamigawa's body suddenly began to change. In Kesha's surprised gaze, the body of the King of Kamigawa turned into mist-like energy and passed through the silver wings that struck together. It reunited in front of her throne. The light gun in his hand was aimed at her and thrust towards her. Whether to resist the attack of the King of Kamigawa or to leave the throne to evade, Kesha finally chose the latter. As the purple energy shock spread, Kesha's cross throne was blasted with a large hole by the void light gun and was seriously damaged. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1140. After the King of Kamigawa destroyed the cross throne, he thrust the void light gun in his hand towards Kesha. At the critical moment, it was too late to mobilize the silver wings to come back for reinforcements. Kesha reached out and pulled out the sword King Ming from the wormhole opened on the side, and deflected the oncoming light gun. After a burst of concussive impact, Kesha and the King of Kamigawa opened some distance. Taking advantage of the moment when the other party rushed over, Kesha drove the flame bombing algorithm to accumulate transformation energy. The King of Kamigawa repeated his old trick and turned into dispersed mist energy again. At the cost of a small part of his body, he passed through Kesha's sword loaded with flame bombardment. The void light gun pierced Kesha's armor, leaving a wound glowing with purple light on her chest and abdomen. In an instant, the invading void energy began to continuously destroy the sacred atoms near the wound. The King of Kamigawa still wanted to pursue the victory, but the incoming silver blade hindered his steps. After he repelled the cutting silver wing, Kesha had used the secondary biological engine to devour the energy in the wound. Needless to say, what happened next was that without the blessing of the throne's self-discipline algorithm, Kesha was unable to quickly generate multi-threads and micro-wormholes. This directly cut off most of Kesha's combat effectiveness, leaving only her basic combat ability as a fourth-generation god and her outstanding knowledge. The King of Kamigawa was astonished that Kesha could actually clash with him in hand-to-hand combat. At first, he thought Kesha was a scholar-type warrior like space, and would be powerless to resist when approached. This made the king of Kamigawa a little annoyed at first. You must know that he paid a lot of price to get close to Kesha. But soon the king of Kamigawa discovered that the situation was not as bad as he imagined, because he found that the number of weapons Kesha operated had dropped by several orders of magnitude compared to before. With this number of silver blades now, the king of Kamigawa Kudwang said it was just drizzle. So the battle situation reversed. Previously, it was Kesha who suppressed the king of Kamigawa, preventing him from getting close. Now, it was the king of Kamigawa who suppressed Kesha, leaving her to passively defend. Dozens of luminous guns flew out one after another, bombarding the silver wings in front of Kesha, leaving several traces of erosion on them. Seeing this, the king of Kamigawa continued to increase the intensity, and kept bombarding with light guns as he approached. After withstanding the bombardment from dozens of luminous guns, one of Kesha's silver wings finally reached its limit and exploded into countless pieces. Although Kesha's face, hiding behind the silver wings, remained calm, the frown between her brows proved that she was not in a good mood at the moment. Kesha deliberately wanted to put enough distance between herself and the king of Kamigawa, recover her scattered silver blades, and rebuild the defense algorithm. But the king of Kamigawa seemed to know what she was thinking, and kept sticking to her. Even if he was hurt, he would stay close to her. In order to resist the bombardment of the king of Kamigawa's extremely powerful void light gun, Kesha had to delay time at the cost of damaging her silver wings. In fact, Kesha understood that if there were no accidents, this might be the place where she fell, because she would not have a second chance to counter the king of Kamigawa. There was some reluctance. After all, she couldn't hold on until Binghua arrived. As for the regret, she had a sacred body, and the king of Kamigawa couldn't kill her completely. Just when Kesha was thinking about this, the king of Kamigawa opened the sword in her hand that was used for defense. After retracting the light gun in her hand, it thrust out with even greater speed. Unable to dodge, and with no time to dodge, Kesha decisively slashed down the king's life, but the fatal thing was that the distance was not enough. The light gun in the king of Kamigawa's hand pierced Kesha's chest first, but the king's sword in her hand failed to touch the body of the king of Kamigawa who was holding the light gun. Before Kesha could make any other moves, the king of Kamigawa swung his light spear and threw Kesha out. Then several light spears flew towards her, knocking the weapon in Kesha's hand away, and then exploded into her armor. Come. After doing all this, the king of Kamigawa approached the embarrassed Kesha and said, "It seems that I have won this battle. I will keep my promise, and soon your subordinates will accompany you." The king of Kamigawa raised his light gun and prepared to give Kesha the final blow, but only heard Kesha's words. "The true Queen of Angels is about to arrive here, and she brings weapons powerful enough to defeat you. I hope you can continue to be so confident after meeting her." Kesha raised her drooped face. Under her golden hair was a pair of very calm eyes. As her words fell, raging dark energy flames burned on her body. The king of Kamigawa sensed something was wrong, and when he lowered the light gun in his hand, he was about to end the holy Kesha, but he was a step too late. Using the hand as a blade and the arm as a sword, this is what Binghua once told Leng. In the most dangerous situation, an angel with an extremely deep mastery of dark energy driving algorithms can do the bare-handed flame bombing calculations. The blazing energy glow penetrated the chest of the king of Kamigawa and disappeared into the starry sky behind him. The king of Kamigawa, who had a big hole in his chest, pierced Kesha's chest with his light gun, and then let go and distanced himself from Kesha. Without the solidification of the king of Kamigawa, the void light gun began to return to its origin. The rich void energy quickly eroded Kesha's body and destroyed the sacred atoms. No matter how much the sub-biological energy was resisted, it could not stop its spread. But before the void energy could completely erode Kesha's body, the void light gun that could no longer maintain stability exploded. After the explosion dissipated, Kesha's figure had disappeared without a trace, and the king of Kamigawa breathed a sigh of relief when he saw this. Holy Kesha was a powerful enemy he rarely encountered. Although he killed the opponent, the void spheres reserved by the king of Kamigawa were also consumed, and even he himself suffered some losses. When the king of Kamigawa was thinking about whether to return to the gap of the void to replenish his supplies, his general Kamigawa sent a message. After a long period of fierce battle with the angels, the top and high-level combat forces fell one after another, and the defense line built by the angels was gradually torn apart. Although the top of the Sky Blade was used in time, as New Kamigawa continued to increase its onslaught and the spread of void energy, even the Sky Blade was just a consumable on the battlefield. In the home battle of Shin Kamigawa, the opponent can replenish energy anytime and anywhere. Angel is just the opposite. Not only is it unable to replenish timely and effectively, but the energy intensity of the attack is also reduced. But these will all become a thing of the past, because a communication was inserted into the United Front Command in the Void Gap. This is Binghua, the King of Angels, and the destroyer is about to arrive at the Gap of the Void. Attention all friendly units, please stay away from the area around the Void Gap as soon as possible. Next, the destroyer will launch a special attack on the space area where the Void Gap is located. Binghua's voice reached the United Front Command, breaking the silence that had fallen into it due to Kesha's death. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 1141. After Binghua's communication was connected to the United Front Command, the mood of the dispatching angels finally recovered. In fact, the defeat of Holy Kesha gave them too much impact. The last time Kesha fell, almost no angels witnessed it with their own eyes, and only a piece of data was left in the sacred knowledge treasure house afterwards. This time Kesha's death was witnessed by all the angels in the United Front Command. At that moment, the dispatching angels felt that the sky was falling, and they were pessimistic about the outcome of this war. As the highest wisdom and the most powerful existence of the angelic civilization, the King of Angels can certainly unite the entire civilization, but at the same time, the defeat of the highest wisdom will also cause a huge blow to the entire civilization. But fortunately, Kesha is no longer the King of Angels, and she did not truly fall. Instead, she was blown into a sacred atomic state by the final explosion of the Void Light Gun. The reason why there is no reaggregation is because there are too many sacred atoms damaged by void energy erosion and cannot reaggregate into their original form. Binghua knew this as soon as she learned about Kesha's death, because she could check Kesha's current status through the sacred knowledge treasure house, and the other party did not disconnect. Originally, I thought I could kill him, or at least delay him until you arrive. Then our sisters joined forces to kill him. Unexpectedly, he took the opportunity and took us away in a wave. Kesha said regretfully, obviously dissatisfied with her performance. Sister Kesha, with these battle data of yours, I also have some understanding of the King of Kamigawa. Don't worry, I will kill her to avenge you. Binghua listened to the information provided by Kesha in the communication and responded with confident words. Then I won't disturb you. I look forward to hearing the news that you have wiped out the Kamigawa civilization when we reunite. Kesha's voice fell silent after saying this. Binghua knew that the other party should have fallen into dormancy. After all, the sacred atom was not as powerful as the divine body, and its energy reserve was limited. During the time when Binghua and Kesha were talking, the destroyer also arrived near the gap of the void. Because of its huge mass and volume, when the destroyer jumped out of the space jump state, the space near the gap in the void first experienced a huge space collapse. The huge space rift formed by the subsequent space rupture swallowed up part of the new Kamigawa fleet on the edge. Then the two sides who were fighting in the entire space saw a supergiant space rift that was not inferior to the void gap. The huge interference caused all the space algorithms in this space to malfunction. Even the Sky Blade had to stop the operation of the wormhole array for safety, otherwise it would easily send the angel warriors to unknown places. Because the angels had already received the news, they knew that the King of Angels was coming with a super weapon that could determine the outcome of the battle. Therefore, when they saw the star-like body of the destroyer slowly squeezed out from the rift in space, they knew that they were about to win this war. Contrary to what the angels thought, the confidence that Shin Kamigawa's side had originally gained from breaking through the gap in the defense line began to fall rapidly in the face of the blow of reality. Not to mention the ordinary warriors of the new Kamigawa civilization, even the king of Kamigawa is watching the destroyer slowly entering this space, and is beginning to think about whether he should give up cooperation with space. The war with the angel civilization made the new king of Kamigawa wake up from the former self-confidence of Kamigawa's civilization as the overlord of the known universe. Although he killed a holy left-wing battle angel, and even defeated and beheaded a person who was suspected to be the king of angels, the process was not easy. Moreover, the new king of Kamigawa can feel that only 2 of the 6 personal guards he brought to the known universe are still alive. It has to be said that this loss is too huge. If paying these prices can defeat or even destroy the angelic civilization, then the new king of Kamigawa is willing to put his heart into it and use all the remaining strength to exert it. But the appearance of the destroyer let the new king of Kamigawa know that it would be difficult for them to defeat the angel civilization this time, and even the chance of serious damage was very slim. He is not naive enough to think that the destroyer's star-sized size is just a mere appearance. Moreover, it can support the operation of such a behemoth, and naturally it will not lack powerful weapons to match it. It took the destroyer more than 10 minutes to completely squeeze out of the space rift, and then the space jump device it carried fell into a long cooling period. However, the cooling of the jump device will not affect the operation of the main weapon carried by the destroyer. Almost the moment it completely enters the star field and exits the jump state, the destroyer activates the supergiant stasis energy generator. The supergiant stasis energy generator begins to deploy, and it is expected to take 30 minutes. During this period, energy will be given priority to the space-time shield system, and only the firing consumption of self-defense weapons will be retained. The avatar of Destroyer 064 gathered next to Binghua, and began to report, with a very cold tone, as if everything here had nothing to do with her. Binghua didn't care either. She had greeted many intelligent beings under Samailo's command and knew that their personalities were like this, and it wasn't that they really didn't care about everything around them. Otherwise, Destroyer 064 would not risk his body disintegrating during the jump and forcefully jump to the void. 064, the next task of sealing the void gap will be left to you. I need to avenge my sisters, and I have no time to stay with you. Binghua stood up from the mechanical throne and walked towards the exit of the hall. The bulkheads along the way quickly receded to both sides, providing Binghua with a direct avenue to the outside of the planetary fortress. If I shut down, will the goddess avenge me? Hearing Destroyer 064's words, Binghua stopped moving forward, looked at her projection with a little surprise, and then said with a smile. Don't worry 064, you are also my sister. If you were destroyed and shut down that day, I will crush and kill your existence, repair your body, and restart your body. Binghua's unquestionable words echoed in the empty passage, and 064 said something after a long silence. May Samilo bring you victory. This is the best way of wishing that 064 can think of, because in her data, Seminary, who created them, is the most powerful existence. Of course, we have to exclude the ice flower goddess who defeated Samilo, but then why would we let Samilo protect the goddess? In order to think about this problem, Destroyer 064's core calculations even paused for a moment, and even the components of the supergiant stasis energy generator being deployed were delayed for a moment.